I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Emma-Jane Mackinnon-Lee, the founder and CEO of DIGITALAX. Emma-Jane, welcome to the show, and it's great to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to dive into your platform. The fashion industry is being revolutionized by blockchain and cryptocurrency right now, and your team is at the forefront of it. And I would love for you to start off by just giving the audience a bit of an overview and the focus of DIGITALAX and the platform.
Sure. So I like to describe DIGITALAX as a digital fashion operating system. It's very multifaceted with lots of components, but to give a bit more of the breakdown, so we started out as a NFT marketplace for digital fashion. So the first one that launched last year around September, and this allowed digital fashion designers to come and upload their garments and designs on our platform as NFTs. And we had a lot of sales around that, and we're really successful with over about 600K in sales to date in that area. And it was this whole idea of, okay, how do you build out a digital supply chain for digital fashion? So we brought in really cool concepts around fractional garment ownership. So it was all about injecting open source into the supply chain and allowed designers to come on and issue independent materials, patterns, and textures that then could be used by other designers in their master garments. And the different ERC protocols for NFTs on chain allowed this whole royalty and profit distribution and new ways of licensing. So we started like that, but then the next stage was always about how do you actually bridge this into application and utility, which gaming esports is a really big part. So this is where we launched the second part of our project, ESPA, and that's the first indie and modded esports platform. So it allows players to come on our marketplace, purchase these skins, and then take them into different gaming, VR, 3D live content environments, start playing, and they actually get scored on the leaderboard when they play and get paid out in our native cryptocurrency for getting on that leaderboard. So it's this whole ecosystem between designers, developers, players, where there's profit distributions amongst all of them for the sales in our marketplace. I'll stop there. There's kind of a lot more to it, but they're the key parts.
Yeah, no, that's great, Emma-Jane. And the NFT marketplace, obviously, that's something that's been super hot right now. And digital fashion is something that in the beginning of NFTs, we saw that the gaming industry was sort of the inception where you can buy skins, you can buy armor, weapons, whatever it may be, and to allow ownership of those, and then to add that special flair with the fashion, that's great. And now you've expanded that into an operating system, which I'm guessing that has a lot to do with the supply chain. Could you talk about what makes it different in terms of the supply chain and I guess creating textiles and just creating raw materials and how that really benefits the digital fashion industry?
Yeah, sure. I guess to kind of give a little bit more history and background, digital fashion, that kind of subset, it all spawned out of sustainability. So fashion, the traditional fashion, like physical textile industry, is completely wasteful. I think it's actually the second most wasteful in the world under oil. So there's a lot of kind of caveats to that, and there's a lot of exploitation in the supply chain. So digital fashion was actually created so designers, particularly in the prototyping stage, they could experiment with different styles, looks, textures, without having to just kind of mock up different designs and then completely throw them out and have all this waste. So that was really how it started. And then from there, it moved very much into like the advertising realm, where digital fashion studios popped up, and it was really the case of like, okay, getting hired as like independent contractors for brands, and then the 3D models would be used for the fashion in different advertising purposes. But when I started DIGITALAX, it was really looking at from the purpose of, okay, the metaverse is something that we talk about a lot, and given kind of where we are at digitally in society, it's really already here, and it's inevitable where it's going. And so if you think about that, and then you think about, okay, how ubiquitous fashion is within just where we are today, it's kind of a very obvious parallel that makes sense in terms of those two combining, and then digital fashion very much becoming ubiquitous within these native digital environments. So that was really how we started with things. It just kind of took on from there, looking at, okay, what are the different components that we need to translate into this digital environment to start creating an ecosystem where designers can come in, brands, studios, and they can really start earning a livelihood from their career in digital fashion and start earning job kind of monetary value as well from that. And so the supply chain is a really big part. And how we structured this was looking at, well, we can use native NFT ERC protocol standards, particularly that of 1155 NFTs and 721 NFTs, and then use this to track on-chain down to a very modular level the different creation process and design process within digital fashion. So how it works in our platform is designers can come and they can actually issue, or artists, creators, individual patterns and materials as ERC 1155 NFTs that are then tracked on chain. And then another designer can come and they can pull from this open source on-chain library of patterns, materials, and textures, and they can incorporate that into their master garment design. And then what that means is when that master garment is sold, the 1155 contributors from the pattern, material, and textures, they can actually get royalty distribution and kind of a new licensing model under that as well. And we were actually pioneered the first ERC 998 variant contract. So that's where on-chain, actually the 721 NFT, it actually owns a bundle of these 1155 NFTs that we assign to it based on the connection from the design point of view. And this is something that very much links back to the sustainability point of view, is how we're pioneering to bring more creators into the space and more distribution access channels. And with that ERC 99 variant, we've actually created the first multi-token bridge from layer 1 mainnet to layer 2 Matic network and back from there as well.
Wow, that's really cool. And I totally understand how, as a designer or a creator, to have your rights, ingrained into your textiles and be able to have royalties on that moving forward automatically just through smart contracts is obviously very beneficial for the people at the beginning of the supply chain. And I'm curious, there's so many aspects to creating the supply chain, getting it into the end users, into the metaverse. When you were first creating this, did you see a specific end user in mind? Is this really made for like investors, other designers, gamers, just everyday people? And how did you move towards that when you were advertising and marketing?
Yeah, good question. Look, I'll be very frank and candid. It's been a challenge because really what we're building at DIGITALAX, it's not like a business model in a sense, or a typical just business or project. We're really building out an entire ecosystem. And often I get asked that question, okay, well, there's so many components to what you're doing. How do you kind of have them all come together? And how I describe it is really within the ecosystem, there's certain fundamental pillars, structures, keystones, whatever you want to call it, that has to be built out in order for the kind of implementation side of what we're doing to really make sense. Because if we were just going to be building a marketplace that's very much then just focused on the speculative side, the purely cosmetic side, and with fashion, and then when you think about, okay, if we're really going to be pioneering the fashion industry and, like I said, actually start creating economic value and job creation, livelihood creation through this, then it's really important that that application side there exists, that there's this way to be able to concentrate and drive the market activity into these environments. And so when you ask about who it's for, well, in terms of the ecosystem, there's a lot of stakeholders within that. So of course, a large focus is the digital fashion side, and that exists and is made up of creators, designers, brands, studios. And then we also have the development side, which is very heavy on the gaming and modding front. So from that, it's modders, it's game developers, it's game studios, game publication houses, and then also the players. So from that, you have, a whole range from amateur to pro. And this is really what our esports environment, ESPA, is all about. It's about leveling players up in the industry from amateur to pro, and having the skins is a really key part of their identity and the way they functionally use them in our ecosystem there too. And then being in crypto, of course, there's, a lot of other stakeholders within that purchase the token and hold it for different reasons. And our token as well has a lot of a governance stake and application within that as well. So that's another kind of, market participant or stakeholder within there too.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot to that. And I'm glad that you mentioned that the Mona Veil token. I would love for you to expand a little bit on that for the people that are just interested in, they understand NFTs, but there's also this fungible token. I'm guessing it has governance functions. Can you just talk about the whole ecosystem and how that Mona token ties into that? And does it create a sustainable ecosystem for the participants as well?
Yeah, no, really good question. So Mona, that's the core ERC utility token of our platform. And it's really a customized incentive for the entire ecosystem. And it's a good question that you ask, does it really have utility? Does it actually drive sustainability? This was a really core part of us building in Web3 and crypto, because often I get asked that question a lot. It's like, okay, well, why did you need to build on Ethereum or any chain for that matter? Why crypto? Why decentralization? Why Web3? Well, apart from it, very much being the future, which we can both agree on, the amazing thing that I find about crypto is the whole idea of programmable incentives and how you can actually customize for a ecosystem the incentives around that and the liquidity, and how do you actually drive sustainability across all the market participants, and what does their role kind of feed into that. So within our ecosystem, Mona, as I said, it's the core utility, and what that looks like, it's used as the kind of purchasing power on our marketplace. So players, they come on, they use Mona to purchase these skins. And then this is also what is distributed as the income stream amongst the designers that are uploading and kind of, I guess, distributing their fashion on our marketplace too. And then also the developers and the modding ecosystem that is actually taking our skins and garments into their games and accepting it within there to be part of this extra utility within the esports tournaments. So it's very much that side, but then also the additional layer is the governance. So the Mona token also has governance rights within ESPA and DIGITALAX, and we're very much on a path towards progressive decentralization with that. And yeah, because I guess we're pioneering so many pillars, we can't just kind of, throw the private keys away and say, okay, everyone just come in and vote wherever. We really have to keep it on a stronger roadmap to get to a stage where then eventually the whole ecosystem will have that sustainability with this equilibrium between the designers, the developers, and the players, and then also, other stakeholders within that as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And thank you for that detailed explanation, Emma-Jane. And you mentioned developers there. I'm curious about more information on the ESPA Esports platform. You mentioned there's developers, there's modders, it's also indie developers. Is this a whole metaverse where there's different kinds of games and people can just go in there and, before actually purchasing fashion, and start exploring into different kind of games and different metaverses?
Yeah, that's another really good question. And to kind of back that up with more context, I mean, a really big challenge that a lot of people, they don't understand as well when they come into the space, or, it's not as obvious, although it seems obvious, is that today the way the gaming industry and just 3D content industry runs, it's very much siloed. There's a lot of vertical gardens, and you can't just kind of take your content into these different environments. I mean, that's both from very much the business layer, but also the technical interoperability. That's a huge challenge that exists also, and a big barrier to when we think about, okay, how do we have seamless kind of transfer of assets within these native digital environments? So we really looked at this from the aspect, okay, well, how do we actually bridge a layer 2 into the solution? So into the industry, how do we actually create a layer 2 of utility that incentivizes these indie games, these developers, these modders, these studios to plug into our ecosystem, be able to gain access to Web3, decentralization, NFTs, blockchain, and leverage off the market, the security side, the kind of future-proofing side of that, without also having to go in and change all their code and then build on Ethereum or build on another blockchain. So that was a really big part. And this was all where we looked at, okay, well, how can we build an additional layer to their current in-game economy? Instead of us coming in and trying to say, oh, well, you've got to accept this, which just doesn't make any sense. How can we create this ecosystem on top that designers, developers, players, they can actually plug into and then create additional value for themselves, have additional utility? So ESPA, it's an esports platform, and it's focused definitely on the indie developer side and the modding ecosystem, as that's really where we see the future of things going, and kind of having, I guess, more of the support for the unseen creators in the space as well. And what this means is that we partner with indie developers, modders that have different game content, and they plug into our whole SDK kit, and this allows us to track the different leaderboard scores of the players in game when they're engaging in battle, and then we put that on a meta leaderboard within ESPA, and the players are authenticated through their NFT skins that they purchase from our marketplace. So it's this whole kind of ecosystem that when they're accepting this content as well, they're also getting paid out for that from the distribution of profits from the marketplace.
Very, very cool. And you mentioned that you started the NFT marketplace, last year, and then you've been expanding with the supply chain and now ESPA. Where are you at right now with how involved players are already in the metaverse? And then, what are the next steps for you and your team in terms of releasing other versions or updates to the platform?
Yeah, good question. So there's a lot going on. I mean, all the time we're upgrading a lot of the features of our marketplace and how we're tying this into ESPA. And this is both from partnering with a lot of new content and games that we have coming out. So we did Among Us mods about a month ago, and we had a 171K auction, which was super exciting because that changed a lot of the designers and devs and modders' lives that were involved in that. So that's, a huge part of what we do as well, is how can we actually impact people and bring value to these creators. So we're partnering with a lot of games. We have Minecraft coming up, we have Roblox Obbies, we have CSGO mods, League of Legends mods, all coming up as well. Wow. And that also is in line with building up a lot of the platform and the interoperability in terms of how a player or a developer or designer actually interacts from a UI perspective from that side. So really focused on that, but also very much so on how we're building up more of the fashion onboarding side into our ecosystem, because that's really a huge part of this, is how do we actually bridge the traditional fashion industry into digital fashion and into also the hybrid digital physical realms in a way that makes sense for them. Because if you're a bigger brand, if you're Fendi or if you're Ralph Lauren or that, it doesn't make sense for you to just pack up all your resources and come in. Sure, there's the NFT kind of siloed drop component, but there needs to be a way for these brands, for these developers as well, to be able to come in and really know, okay, what's my roadmap to actually earning a proper career out of this, or a proper sustainable livelihood? Where's the market that I'm addressing? So we're really focused on that, as well as being a core infrastructure and protocol layer to fashion, to gaming, and how they intersect. And with this, we're actually launching the very first hybrid digital physical NFT fashion line, and that's going live in a few days. And then also a really kind of concentrated content magazine platform with new NFT subscription sites, where a lot of the bigger brands that we partner with are able to, distribute more of their goods and their, pathway into the ecosystem through that as well. So that's also launching in about 2 weeks. So very busy just on all fronts.
That's very cool, Emma-Jane. There's so many different aspects and that you're continuing to launch, and some great partnerships, it sounds like, with a lot of popular games coming up. So I think that could be a huge momentum push for you and your team. So congratulations towards that. For the viewers that are looking to get involved in either the esports platform, the fashion, and everything else that you're working on, what's the best way for them to learn more and to get into the community?
Sure. So we have a lot of content online. We have our website that kind of brings everything together, but our Medium, that's where we post a lot of our updates. And then also, I would say the core thing would to be join our Discord servers. So we have one for DIGITALAX, which is really updating of the whole ecosystem, and then one dedicated for ESPA, where we're running a lot of the tournaments out of, and we organize a lot of the schedules for the tournaments out of there for the players, and then partner with a lot of Twitch streamers as well to have them stream to the Discord there. So if you're looking to get involved, I would say first thing is just go to our website, join our Discords, and then we're more than happy to answer questions in there if you can't find what's needed on the mediums and even our YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm. I will leave all those links in the description box below. Thank you so much for taking the time, Emma-Jane, today. It's a pleasure learning more about DIGITALAX, and all the best with the operating system and the esports platform moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Great. Thanks, Ashton.